Democrats are panicking as the GOP releases direct evidence of the Biden family involved in a criminal conspiracy, the heights of which you had never even dreamt before. You guys have got to check this out.
Mean things, or at least they should. Here's Joe Biden's words from August 28, 2019. First of all, I have never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything to do with their business. From September the same year, I have never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings. October, same year, quote, I don't discuss business with my son. Were Joe Biden's words true? No, they were false. So why did he lie repeatedly? In an interview back in 2019 with The New Yorker, even Hunter admitted that he talked to his dad about business, specifically Burisma. Many of Hunter Biden's business associates have testified Joe Biden met with them. Two of the ones closest to Hunter, Rob Walker and Devin Archer, were among them. So they not only spoke to him, they took, a lot of the business associates took photos with him. They played golf with him. Joe Biden gave them White House tours. He wrote letters of recommendation for their children and shared fancy dinners as well. So let's also talk about patterns. Yuri Luzkov and Yelena Baturina. They are Russian, they were married, Russian oligarch billionaires. Michael McFaul, the U.S. ambassador to Russia, ID'd Luzkov as being corrupt. Yelena Baturina wires $3.5 million to Hunter Biden. Soon thereafter, who does she have dinner with? Then Vice President Joe Biden. Kenez Rakishev, and Karim Mazimov, Kazakhstani nationals. Mazimov used to be the prime minister. He's now in prison. Rakishev wires $142,300 to Hunter Biden. The very next day, Hunter Biden buys a Porsche for $142,300. And then soon after, who do you think Kenez Rakishev has dinner with? Say it with me. Then Vice President Joe Biden, Adam Pazarski and Mykola Zolchevsky, the CEO and CFO of Burisma. U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine, Jeffrey Pyatt, calls Zolchevsky a poster child of corruption. Those two fellas paid Hunter Biden's shell companies a total of $3.3 million. And who do you think Vadym Pazarski had dinner with? Again, say it with me all at once. Then Vice President Joe Biden. So here's a pattern. You have crooked foreigners that deliver pallets of cash to the Bidens, and then they have dinner with Joe. And apparently Joe Biden is one hell of an expensive dinner date. And if that's not selling political access, I don't know what is. My Democratic colleagues report ad nauseum when they talk to the media that there's no direct evidence linking Joe Biden to his son's crimes. Really? This is a FD 1023, which is used by the FBI when confidential informants give them information. This 1023 is only as good as the source. It could be garbage or it could be gold. The FBI describes this source as somebody that is highly reliable and very trustworthy. In fact, they've worked with him for over a decade and paid him well over $100,000. What he has given to them is always checked out. This, ladies and gentlemen, is gold. Consider this with weight and gravity. So what does this say? I don't know what the confidential informant's name is, so I'm going to call him Ivan. Ivan is not his real name, but Ivan describes Vadym Pazarski directly admitting to him in a confidential conversation that they hired a not-so-smart Hunter Biden to protect us, quote, through his dad from all kinds of problems. Then Ivan speaks directly to CEO Zolchevsky, and Zolchevsky confides that Hunter Biden will take care of those corruption issues through his dad. Zolchevsky is being investigated by Viktor Shokin, a Ukrainian prosecutor. Joe Biden suddenly begins to call for Shokin's removal. Now, Ivan is also told by Zolchevsky that it cost him $5 million to pay one Biden and $5 million to pay the other. This is direct evidence of naked corruption and bribery. Zolchevsky also admitted to Ivan that both Bidens pushed him to pay them and to keep Hunter Biden on the board. Please keep in mind, these were confidential conversations. Also interesting that Zolchevsky referred to Biden as the big guy, and I doubt he knows Tony Bobulinski. Shokin seized 2 homes, land, and a Rolls-Royce from Zolchevsky. When he was fired, the Ukrainian president admitted in a phone call to none other than Joe Biden that Shokin didn't do anything wrong, but at your behest, we fired him. And then $1 billion of aid that was being withheld was given to Ukraine. And lastly, after Shokin was fired, Hunter Biden and the other members of the Burisma board wrote a letter to the new prosecutor demanding that the investigation into Zolchevsky ended. And you know what? Shockingly, it did. The message was sent, and the Bidens delivered.
If something walks like a duck acts like a duck, and quacks like a duck. More often than not, it's a duck. Why else would Ukrainian private energy corporations hire Hunter Biden, a man with zero experience whatsoever? In fact, he's a crackhead. Why would they hire him and pay him boatloads of money other than they wanted influence with the then current Vice President Joe Biden under Barack Obama? This is as clear-cut corruption as it comes. In fact, one of Hunter Biden's own business partners, Tony Bobulinski, went out and confirmed every single thing that this congressman said today. He said, in fact, the big guy in the email exchanges is in fact Joe Biden. And Joe Biden said on video recording that he wanted a prosecutor fired. Not only should the Biden family be held accountable, but so should the mainstream media for burying their heads in the sand and refusing to report upon this.
Experience in financial investigations. You follow, quote unquote, you follow the money. If you were investigating this and looking at $5 million payment from Burisma to Joe Biden, what kinds of information or patterns would you be looking for?
Well, I'd want to know who, what, when, where, and why. What's going on? Why is the money moving? What's it for? What's the substance behind it? And talk to people. Look at documents and talk to people. That's what we do in investigations. I would venture to say everybody in this chamber, if they were the CEO of a company and they saw money moving like that within their own company, they'd want to get to the truth. They'd want to find out, why is that money moving? Why is somebody paying that money out? Those are the questions that need to be asked and get to the bottom of.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I sat in on the entire 7+ hour deposition that Hunter Biden gave to this committee. And one of the things that stood out to me was his assertions with a rather braggadocious flair of his business experience and his acumen and his impeccable qualifications. He claimed with quite some vigor, I might add, that he was a brilliant, accomplished, and highly sought-after business commodity. He's very successful, and he had an unparalleled resume that he recited to us chapter and verse to prove it. That was at least the face his lawyers, this administration, and the House Democrats wanted him to wear. Of course, there's another possibility, one that this pesky little thing we call reality, that he was a spoiled, entitled East Coast patrician with a senator and then VP daddy who squandered his many life advantages and spiraled into a decadent behavioral pattern of narcissistic excess and criminal addiction. And to feed his very large carnal appetites, he acted as his family's bagman in an influence peddling and access selling scheme that netted the Biden tribe over $24 million in illicit foreign cash. Lots of money, little effort, in a get-rich-quick scheme. If he was such a skilled and gifted businessman as he claimed, his services would be sought after, in fact, even fought over. Mr. Bobulinski, to your knowledge, how many Fortune 500 companies retained Hunter Biden on their board of directors?
Now or in his...
Ever.
I can't confirm any.
Yeah, because there aren't any. Zero. How many energy companies retained Hunter Biden? I'm sorry, how many American energy companies retained Hunter Biden on their boards of directors?
Zero.
Zero, nada, correct. There was one energy company that retained him on their board of directors. Do you know what that name of that company was?
Yes, Burisma.
Burisma, correct. Where's Burisma located?
Ukraine.
Really? That's interesting because, and he was hired actually for no small sum, $1 million a year. Hunter Biden said in his deposition he could bring, and Mr. Chairman, I apologize for laughing, but he said his corporate governance to the table. He brought something far more valuable than his corporate governance. He brought his, in his fictitious business acumen, he brought his daddy with him. You see, Joe Biden just happened to have been given the country of Ukraine in his portfolio of responsibility to oversee by the Obama administration. So let's go over some facts, Mr. Chairman. Fact, Burisma and CEO Mykola Zlochevsky had been investigated for corruption. Fact, in September 2015, then U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine, Jeffrey Pyatt, specifically mentioned Burisma as a corrupt entity. Fact, Burisma was paying the son of the Vice President of these United States $1 million a year to serve on their board. Fact, December 2015, Joe Biden visits Ukraine, demands Viktor Shokin, the Prosecutor General of Ukraine, who's investigating Burisma, his son's boss, be fired. Fact, February 2nd, 2016, Kyiv Post reports Viktor Shokin won a court order to seize assets of Burisma CEO Mykola Zlochevsky. 2 weeks later, fact, Shokin resigns. President Poroshenko called on him to resign. He resigned. He essentially was fired at the behest of Joe Biden. Fact, 2016, February, 2 weeks later, there's a little email sent from Vadim Pozharsky, COO of Burisma. He's an executive of Burisma. and to Hunter Biden, asking him, hey, Hunter, will you help us out? We want to get the embassy in the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine to say that we're a good company. Now, the ambassador just said they were corrupt a few months prior to that. And then, lo and behold, with the seal of the United States Embassy, they say that we have no negative information or feelings about Burisma. So what changed in those 6 months? It was magic. The power of the vice president's visit when he demands that his son's boss, the prosecutor who's investigating his son's boss, be fired. And he's going to withhold $1 billion worth of aid, actually, I think loan guarantees, if Shokin's not fired. And then Shokin is fired. The embassy says that Burisma is a great company. Our Democratic colleagues would have us believe, Mr. Chairman, that that was all magic, that there was no coincidence here. And with that, I yield the balance of my time to Mr. Jordan.
I appreciate the gentleman yielding. I was just going to point out that Jared Kushner was one of the key officials involved in the Abraham Accords. If we want to talk about influencing foreign, how about the President of the United States, what he said in his State of the Union regarding Israel, and how about what the Democrat leader of the Senate said last week, in that Israel should change its prime minister, for goodness sake.
The saddest thing about it all is not only that the prosecutor was fired, but that Joe Biden was caught on videotape saying that if you want this money, that prosecutor needs to be fired. There is video documentation of this happening. I mean, that is a crime. This shows direct evidence that Joe Biden was involved. He was crooked and he was selling out the American people to enrich himself, his son, and his family, the Biden crime family. Can you just imagine for a moment that Donald Trump was involved in this exact same thing? There would not be a Trump standing. I believe they would go after every single member in his family. They'd go after Eric. They'd go after Don Jr., Don, Melania. Somehow they would all be implicated. But when it comes to Joe Biden, we just turn a blind eye. We let it happen because they're all on the same team. They're selling out the American people. It's only Donald Trump coming in, standing up for us, and exposing this corruption who's actually standing in their way. And even though all of this stuff was documented before 2020, they still somehow elected Biden into the most powerful position on earth. It seems 81 million people did not care about this whatsoever. It's all BS. It's a house of cards. The Democrats are just straight up liars. And the fact that CNN, MSNBC did not expose this goes to show that they are all crooked and they don't care about telling the truth. They only care about perpetuating a lie to the American people day in and day out that furthers their narrative and propaganda. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this down below. And also, how many votes do you believe that Joe Biden truly got in the 2020 election? Do you believe the 81 million number that they're telling us, or do you think it was a drastically different number? Let me know down below. I'd love to hear that. And if you enjoyed, make sure to smash that like, comment, subscribe, and wish you guys nothing but the best. Until next time.